අද්විතීය 200 Mbps ස්පීඩ් එකකින් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වේගවත්ම සහ පුළුල්තම හෝම් බ්‍රෝඩ්බෑන්ඩ් සම්බන්ධතාවය වන SLT මොබිටෙල් දේශීය ෆයිබර් බලවේගය ඔබත් අදම අත්විඳින්න.
හරිම සුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Monday, the 3rd of April 2023. New law. Once the Parliament approves the IMF agreement, the main points of the agreement will be passed into law, says President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Beware. Prevailing warm weather conditions to continue. Health experts warn of an increased risk of dehydration. Easing essentials. State-run Litrogas announces price cuts, citing global price slump and strengthening Sri Lankan rupee.
We believe that we should be able to go up to the level of almost 1,000 rupees reduction effective from midnight tomorrow.
And surprise target cuts. Global oil prices pose their biggest daily rise after OPEC Plus announces output cuts. Markets fear prices may push past $100 a barrel.
Alliance Finance මෙතුරු රන්නයි සේවාවෙන් රන් පවුම්කට රුපියල් 1,70,000ක ඉහළ අධිකාරමක්.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දිනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9 with Anuradhi Wickremesinghe. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. Now, our top story tonight, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has announced that the agreement with the International Monetary Fund would be presented to Parliament for a vote on whether to support it. And following this, the key points of the agreement would be enacted into law. During a meeting with the university professors and heads of economic departments, the President also indicated that the Prevention of Terrorism Bill, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the Anti-Corruption Bill would be submitted to Parliament by June.
A meeting with the university professors and the heads of economic departments as a part of a discussion about the IMF program was held at Ministry of Finance Auditorium yesterday under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
මේ වෙලාව හරිම කනගාටුයි කියන්නේ මොකද පොදුවේ ගත්තාම හැම නිවුස් පේපර් එකකම මම දකින්නේ ක්‍රයිසිස් එක ඉවර වෙලා වගේ කියලා. ඉවර වෙලා නැහැ. තාම අපි තියෙන විශේෂයෙන්ම අපි උදැල්ලම දැන් තමයි හොඳටම දෙන්නේ. මොකද අපි තමයි එදිනෙදා කියන්නේ ඩේ ටු ඩේ බේසිස් අපි ක්‍රයිසිස් එක හරහා යන්නේ. මොකද කෑෂ් ෆ්ලෝ එක මැනේජ් කරද්දී අපිට ප්‍රශ්න.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට දාලා මේ ගිවිසුම ගැන සහයෝගය දෙන්නවද නැද්ද කියලා ඡන්දයක් ගන්න. හැම එක්කෙනාම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ස්ථාවරයක් ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට තීරණය කරන්න ඕන ඡන්දය දෙනවද නැද්ද කියලා. සමහර දෙකම වැලකිලා ඉන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක හරියන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක ඉස්සෙල්ලා දාලා අහනවා. මේ මම බැලුවේ මේ IMF එකඟතාවයේ ගතියුතු ප්‍රධාන කරුණු නීතියක් හැටියට කියනවා. දෙවනුව අපි අපේ වැඩසටහන මොකද්ද කියලා දැනුම් දීලා ඒකට ප්‍රතිචාරය ලබා ගමු. The anti-corruption law will be out very soon. Maybe by May. There are 3 important bills that are coming out: Anti-Terrorism, Truth and Reconciliation Commission and Anti-Corruption. Minister of Justice has discussed this with the Chief Justice, who has asked that each don't bring all 3 bills together because it will be difficult for the Supreme Court to go into it and there will be a shortage of lawyers. So he will work out a scheme. One bill will come out first towards the end of April, then the other 2 by somewhere by June, all 3 bills will come. අපිට දෙන්න තියෙන ඕනෑම විසඳුමක් IMF රාමුව ඇතුලේ දෙන්න. ඒකෙන් පිට යන්න බෑ. ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණය කරන්න ඕනේ. ලංකාව ආපහු වැටෙන්න බෑ. ඇෆ්ගනිස්තානෙන් පිටිපස්සට. විපක්ෂයෙන් දැන් පිළි අරගෙන තියෙනවා මේක කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා.
The government has been able to generate 100 billion rupees out of the pay tax. However, on the other hand, the government losses almost 113 to 117 billion just because of the Sri Lankan Airlines, and CEV losses almost 117 billion in 8 months, and CPC loses almost 600 billion in a year. So there is a great deal of need to reform all these state-owned enterprises, including the higher education and education sector. So what you have been reading at the moment is the right path.
We have serious problems in maintaining and sustaining higher education model right now. We want to have an appointment with the relevant officials and you, perhaps Your Excellency, to discuss the current funding model for education or higher education and see the way out, because we think it needs to be reformed if we are to maintain state university system in this country. If we don't do that, we will probably collapse in time.
We have the capacity to attract foreign students to this country, but we need to also be able to invest in improving the human resources, the staff that we have, because that is a long-term investment that we do.
The government should not engage in operating business in competitive environment. If it does, it is a conflict of interest. Government should look into areas where there is need by the people and engage itself only if there is no private sector investment in those areas. Government can invest but should not engage in commercial activity.
SMEs, I think this is one of the greatest strengths we have. And if you do get them to innovate and focus on exports and get into the value chain.
Now, the Department of Meteorology today says that the prevailing warm weather conditions experienced in many parts across Sri Lanka can continue until the end of May. With that being the case, the health experts warned of a risk of dehydration and urged the public to increase their levels of water intake to maintain proper hydration levels.
Since the past few days, many areas across Sri Lanka are experiencing warm weather conditions. According to Department of Meteorology, warm weather is expected to continue until the end of May.
It is normal to experience hot weather in April and May. We are in the intermonsoon season, the transition period between northeast monsoon and southwest monsoon. So there is no predominant wind flow across Sri Lanka. Calm winds create high humidity which increase the heat that is felt by our bodies. So during intermonsoon season, we experience this hot weather. But same time, during intermonsoon period, we experience afternoon thunderstorm at some areas. When we receive significant amount of rainfall, then there can be temporary relief due to evaporation cooling. However, this hot weather will last till the onset of southwest monsoon in the latter part of month of May.
Taking the warm weather into account, health experts warn that these conditions can increase the risk of dehydration among both the children and adults.
මේ දවස්වල අපි හැමෝටම දාඩිය දානවානේ. දවල් වරුවේ දාඩිය දැනීම වැඩි නිසා විජලනය වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ එහෙම විජලනය වුණාම අපිට රෝග ලක්ෂණ විදියට ඇඟපතට අපහසුව, හිස රදය, සමහරක් අයට වමන යනවා, වැඩ කරන්න බැරි ගතිය, අර ඒ වගේ තත්ත්වයන් එන්න පුළුවන්. අපි වතුර බොන ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි කරන්න. වතුර වීදුරුවක් බිව්වා නම් ඒක අතර වීදුරු දෙකක් බොන්න ඕන. මොකද ඒ මගින් මේ විජලන තත්ත්වයන් අපිට වළක්වා ගන්න පුළුවන්.
Now, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved allocation of an additional 3 billion rupees to the already allocated 10 billion rupees for the purchase of paddy from the Maha season. This was confirmed by Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaravira following the weekly cabinet meeting. Thereby, the total allocation made for the purchase of paddy from the Maha season is 13 billion rupees. Now, protesting members of the Inter-University Students' Federation were met with police water cannons when they attempted to march towards the University Grants Commission in Colombo today. The protest was organized by the IUSF to call for action on the alleged repression of students within government universities. After submitting their grievances to the UGC chairman, the IUSF convener Wasantha Mudilige urged the Minister of Education to look into the matter.
The Inter-University Students' Federation launched a protest in Colombo today, calling for action on the alleged repression of students within government universities. When they attempted to march towards the University Grants Commission from the Lipton roundabout, police set up barricades to prevent their progress. The police then fired water cannons to disperse them when they attempted to march despite police instructions. Later, the university students protested near the State Pharmaceutical Corporation-owned Osusala.
ආණ්ඩුවට ඕනකමක් තියෙනවා ශිව්‍යාපාරයේ ධන ගස්සන්න, ශිව පාට බහින එක නතර කරන්න. ඒ වගේම විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ඇතුලේ අර්බුද නිර්මාණය කරලා ඒ අර්බුද වලට උත්තර හොයන්න අදාළ තැනට ශිෂ්‍යයෝ කොටු කරන්න ඕන වෙලා තියෙනවා. පොලිසිය දැන් ජනතාවගේ ප්‍රශ්න කතා කරන අයට ගහන තැනට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ත්‍රස්ත පනත නැවත වටේකින් ගෙනල්ලා දැන් මොකක්ද හදන්නේ? ගහලා නවනීති ගෙනල්ලා මේක නතර කරන්න හිතන් ඉන්නවා.
Following discussions with the police, 5 students were allowed to meet the chairman of the University Grants Commission, Professor Sampath Amaratunga, for discussions.
අද විශ්වවිද්‍යාල 4ක දරුවන්ගේ විනය සම්බන්ධයෙන් ගත්ත ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගැන තමයි කතා කරේ. සමහර ප්‍රශ්න මට විසඳන්න පුළුවන්, සමහර ප්‍රශ්න මට විසඳන්න බෑ. ඉතින් බැරි දේවල් මං කිව්වා මේක කරන්න බෑ, මේ දේ කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. කරන්න පුළුවන් ඒවට ලිඛිතව ඉල්ලීම් තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඒ මොනොත් මට මැදිහත් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. දෙන්දිත් මං ඉල්ලීමක් කරා මේ ක්‍රම වේදය වෙනස් කරගන්න කියලා.
Following the discussion with the UGC chairman, the USF convener had this to say to the media.
අපි අධ්‍යාපන ඇමතිවරයාටත් ඒ වගේ විශ්වවිද්‍යාල ප්‍රතිපාදන කොමිසමේ සභාපතිවරයාට මූලික ලෙස අවධාරණය කරනවා මේ ප්‍රශ්න විසඳීම සඳහා වූ මැදිහත් වීමක් කඩිනමින් කරන්න කියලා. එහෙම නැති වුණොත් ඉදිරියේදී ඒකට අදාළව අපි ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්නවා කියන එක මේ වෙලාවේදී මතක් කරනවා.
Meanwhile, another protest was held against the government's move to divest the stakes of the company held by the Treasury Secretary. The prosecutors marched along several streets of Colombo to express their objection to the government and also held a protest near the Sri Lanka Telecom head office.
18 trade unions affiliated to the telecom held a protest today against the government's move to divest the stakes of the company held by the Treasury Secretary. Further, they also launched a single-day token strike. Later, a tense situation between the police and the protesters erupted following their attempts to conduct a protest march with the use of loudspeakers. Despite the police barriers, the protesters marched along the Chatham Street, Sabaron Jayatilakamawata and Lotus Road, and arrived back again at the Sri Lanka Telecom head office to hold a protest there.
Now, Litrogas Lanka Limited will slash the price of its 12.5 kilogram domestic LP gas cylinder by around 1,000 rupees with effect from midnight tomorrow. According to Litro chairman Mudita Piris, the price revision is due to several factors, including the drop in global gas prices and the rupee appreciation. He also assures the public of an uninterrupted supply of LP gas to the market during the festive season.
State-run Litrogas Lanka Limited said the prices of domestic LP gas will see a reduction with effect from midnight tomorrow. According to its chairman Mudita Piris, the price of a 12.5 kilogram domestic cylinder will be reduced by around 1,000 rupees. The exact price reduction will be announced at a media briefing tomorrow. Speaking to AdaDerana English News, Piris also assured the public that adequate stocks of LP gas will be made available in the market during the upcoming festive season.
The main factors for the reduction is world gas prices. You know, the world gas prices we take from the index called Saudi Aramco index. That's supposed to be the largest gas index in the world. So based on that and the recent rupee value, the exchange rate development based on exchange rate, and also the newly introduced pricing formula. Those are the three new main factors for this price reduction. And we believe that we should be able to go up to the level of almost 1,000 rupees reduction effective from midnight tomorrow. And also for the upcoming festival season, we have confirmed orders for 30,000+ metric tons for the month of April and month of May also, and I'm sure there will be no gas shortage in months to come. So we can be very sure about that.
Now, oil prices see a new high as OPEC Plus and other major producers announce more production cuts. Stay tuned for an in-depth look into the fluctuating energy prices right after this break.
ගොඩමඩ පෙරලි කරන බලපුළුවන්කාරයා මහින්ද්‍රා යුවෝ ටීමෝ වෙතින්
Apico Super Center, Arudu Super Shopper. Amazing 50% discounts. Shop for 7,500 rupees or more with an Apico Privilege card, including 5 nominated brands.
Let's go! Apico Super Center.
දේශීය නගා සිටුවීම සහ සවිබල ගැන්වීම අපගේ පරමාර්ථයයි. පාසල් පිරියත සුරකිමු වැඩසටහන යටතේ පාසල් 3300ක් ප්‍රතිසංස්කරණය කිරීම. රුපියල් මිලියන 250ක් වටිනා සුබපැතුම් ශිෂ්‍යත්ව 2150ක්. අපේක්ෂා රෝහලට කරන ලද පරිත්‍යාග. 2022 ලෝක ළමා දිනය වෙනුවෙන් දෙමාපියන් දහසකට ජීවිත රක්ෂණ. ශ්‍රී ලංකා ඉන්ෂුරන්ස්. පියකුමෙන් මවකමෙන්.
Welcome back. Now, Sri Lankan shares closed lower today, dragged down by losses in communication services and consumer discretionary stocks. The all-share price index fell 0.69% to 9,236.93. The S&P SL20 index ended at 2,676.48, following a loss of 0.24%. The trading volume for the all-share price index fell to 26.8 million shares from about 382.4 million in the previous session. The market turnover fell to 570 million Sri Lankan rupees or $1.78 million from 4.27 billion rupees in the previous session. Transportation sector was the top contributor to the market turnover, while the banking sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net buyers in the equity market, purchasing stocks worth 17.7 million rupees, while domestic investors were net sellers, offloading 557.7 million rupees of shares. Let's now take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. Now, oil prices posted their biggest daily rise in nearly a year today after a surprise announcement by OPEC Plus to cut more production. The organization of the petroleum exporting countries and their allies, including Russia, shook markets by announcing on Sunday further production target cuts of about 1.16 million barrels per day.
Brent crude was trading at $84.53 a barrel, up $4.64 or 5.8% after touching the highest in a month at $86.44. West Texas Intermediate crude was at $80.23 a barrel, up $4.56 or 6% after hitting its highest level since late January. On Sunday, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and their allies, including Russia, announced production target cuts of about 1.16 million barrels per day. The group known as OPEC Plus had been expected to maintain its earlier decision to cut output by 2 million barrels per day until December. The pledges bring the total volume of cuts by OPEC Plus to 3.66 million barrels per day, equal to 3.7% of global demand. As a result, global analysts lowered their end 2023 production forecast by 1.1 million barrels per day and raised its Brent price forecasts to $95 and $100 a barrel for 2023 and 2024, respectively. The Biden administration said the move announced by the producers was unadvisable, and some analysts questioned OPEC Plus's rationale for the extra production cut. The decision means OPEC Plus is determined to act over those possible economic storm clouds on the horizon. Brent fell last month towards $70 a barrel, the lowest in 15 months, on concerns that a global banking crisis and rising interest rates would hit demand despite lower OPEC oil output in March due to a halt in some of Iraq's exports.
The dollar trimmed its initial gains against major pairs as investors focused on diverging central bank policy, with the impact of oil production cuts complicating the inflation outlook. The dollar index, which measures the currency against a basket of 6 currencies, including the euro, was down 0.4% at 102.49. Focus this week will be on US activity data and Friday's job report, although many markets will be closed for the Easter holiday. The dollar rose to 0.3% to 133.23 against the Japanese yen after earlier hitting its highest level since March 17th. The euro was last up 0.2% to $1.086 after touching a one-week low of $1.07 earlier in the session. Sterling was at $1.2357, up 0.2%, while the dollar rose 0.1% against the Swiss franc. Oil-sensitive currencies such as Norway's krone and the Canadian dollar were beneficiaries of the rising oil prices. The risk-sensitive Australian dollar was last up 0.6% to $0.6724 ahead of a policy meeting at the Reserve Bank of Australia, with markets placing an 85% chance the central bank will hold on to interest rates after 10 interest rate hikes. Now, Malaysia's parliament voted to remove the country's mandatory death penalty, potentially sparing more than 1,300 prisoners on death row. The country has had a moratorium on execution since 2018, but the abolition now removes the death penalty as a mandatory sentence for 11 serious crimes, including murder and terrorism. Judges have retained discretion to impose capital punishment in exceptional cases, but for the most serious crimes, the courts will now favor life imprisonment sentences of up to 40 years or corporal punishment such as caning. The reform still needs to clear the country's upper house, but is widely expected to pass. The new laws will apply retrospectively, allowing those on death row 90 days to seek a review of their sentences. And that is all from us here at Worst at 9. Join us again tomorrow at the same time. Stay tuned for World News Tonight with Suzanne Shanali. Thank you for watching. Good night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.